Hey everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Squared Slice. I am your friendly neighborhood cactus soda today, joined by my co-host, my Bobby the Brain Heenan to my gorilla monsoon, Dustin Dubuque. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really good. It's just an overall great weekend. So hey,
I know we had to take our second week off already, but we're not going to make it happen again because we knew we were so super busy. But
yes.
now we're
Uh,
here, and now I
that was
realize I got to
longer.
continue to remember to put a nickname on my name. Pretty soon, I'll actually remember it when I log in and Mr. Cactus Suit over there with his wanted T-shirt, like maybe the greatest piece of T-shirt that you can own.
Definitely one of them.
It is, right? It's easily one of the best merchandise shirts that are like mass produced that you could
It
ever
gets the
have.
message across perfectly of who
Right.
this guy is.
It's so good. That shirt is top notch.
Yeah, hands down. It's if you're a pro wrestling fan, it's a must own for sure.
Speaking of, just because we're talking about the shirts, did you see the story this week of obviously when Stone Cold was huge in 1999, 2000, there were shirts everywhere, right?
Mhm.
Even my dad, who hated wrestling, had an Austin 316 shirt because he just loved Stone Cold because that was what he loved.
Yeah.
And there was it was like I'd have to remember, but it's a typical Austin 316, the blue smoking skull on the back or something. It's a shirt I definitely remember seeing, but it was a mint condition shirt, never worn with tags, and it like sold at an auction for like tens of thousands of dollars.
It would have to be the original.
It was original first line.
I went to a Value Village. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not. I went to a Value Village a number of years ago. It's kind of like a combination Salvation Army Target sort of thing. But anyways, I walked in, I'm just rumming through the shirts, and I found an OG 1997 Austin 316 shirt, and you can tell because it's got that new generation logo on the back.
Sweet.
So of course I had to buy it. It doesn't fit me right now, but of course I had to buy it. It's a piece of history.
Right. Especially those shirts. Those Austin 316 shirts were so cool.
Oh yeah.
And it is amazing to remember how many there was because he was just so freaking famous.
If I'm
that
not
everybody
mistaken,
would buy him.
It's still the highest selling T-shirt of all time in the wrestling industry.
I think it is, right? Isn't it him? Yeah. Isn't it him and then like seconds NWO? Isn't it?
Something like that,
like that. Because everybody had an NWO shirt.
At that
NWO
time,
was right. NWO was like Bullet Club like 10 years ago, where people just bought the shirt, whether they knew anything about it or not, just because it was a cool shirt.
Yeah, I have the coolest NWO shirt they ever released, and it's the Wolfpack Wolfhead one.
Yes. Yeah. Was that the red one or did you have the red one?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, I picked it up off of WWE Shop last year.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Now I just want that shirt. Too sweet. Too sweet. Well, that's funny because the idea that Soda and I had today was Soda and I actually for anybody out there, we don't know each other super well.
Yeah,
but the one thing we
met once to do this with me.
But we realized we love wrestling. So Soda and I have obviously talked plenty about it in the last month. And the one thing I had is anybody who watches it probably wants to know, why do we like wrestling? What made us love this ridiculous thing that we, for some odd reason, still do when it's as, least popular as it probably has ever been, kind of? Like when it comes to the populace, I don't know anybody around me that almost watches wrestling ever. Besides a few people. Are you the same way?
One coworker. That's it.
Yeah, I have one buddy I text a lot about it, and then I have a little tiny group in my Snapchat that we message like when the big stuff happens. Because, that's all they pay attention to it. Like they focus on the big headlines and stuff. It's not like every Monday or Thursday or Wednesday or whatever they talk about wrestling. It's like, there's pay-per-view.
Casual fan then, I guess.
Totally, yeah. It's like 3 casual fans, myself, and then I would say there's one guy who's probably even more hardcore than I am. Like he's just super into it. Yeah, it's interesting though. Like I'll even bring up, like I have a buddy of mine who'll watch the Royal Rumble every year, and he'll come to my house every year because he just loves it. I don't think I talk to him about wrestling the rest of the year. Like he comes over completely blank, and he's like, "Okay, so tell me what's going on."
Oh, nice.
And then that's like, which is always really fun to do when somebody doesn't watch it and then they watch it for one day.
I've never been able to convince anybody who's my friends to do that. So, but
Yeah.
luckily my coworker, we like he's like us, like Hart. He knows everything, so he's gonna come over. We're gonna watch SummerSlam, which is dope because I've never had anyone over to watch pay-per-view.
Oh, SummerSlam's going to be good too.
Yeah.
We're excited. So then, my first question for you is,
Yes.
what is the first memory? What's the one thing that sticks out?
Easy. It's the collection of the LJN figures that my dad got me when I was a little kid. I had a whole lot of them. The Hogan I had was the white shirt, red trunks.
Oh yeah, you had that Hogan.
Yeah,
Never had that one.
I had the ring, which for some reason I tried to walk through when I was little. So if for a long time it was like this big like cross hole. And then my mom got mad at me when I was about 7 because I refused to clean up after myself, and she threw all the toys out. And my dad was pissed because he put a lot of money into that.
Right.
So that was my first interaction with that. Like, obviously I knew who everybody was. Like, I do also have this that I got when I was 3. Like,
the fact that you still have that is awesome. I wish I had mine.
And then I picked this one up at a garage sale about 15 years ago.
Gosh, I used to have that.
Yeah.
I used to have that DDP.
But no, basically, wrestling's been, to my knowledge, it's been there since I was born. Because my dad was a casual fan. Like, he likes to tell how he got to see Andre the Giant, like, early in his career.
Of course.
Lift Jonathan who is not a small man himself, lift him from the ground to the apron.
Who did he lift? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
John Leo Jonathan. He was like, was another giant. Yeah, like 6'10", something like that. Oh yeah, my dad loves to tell that story. And then my uncle also would watch it as well. So I mean, that's where my introduction came from.
Sure. Yeah, so then your dad was more or less collecting because of you.
Pretty much. Yeah.
No, my mom did.
My dad's not the biggest wrestling fan. It's just weird that he did that.
My mom is the same way. I remember, like, so I was born in New York State, and I moved to Wisconsin, where I'm at now, when I was 4. But obviously my mom has the batches of VHS home videos, and there is one video where it's me like 3 years old, like wrestling. You know, remember them blow-ups that stood up and you like knocked them over?
I had those too. I had the Ultimate Warrior one.
I think that was the one I'm wrestling with, is Ultimate Warrior one. And in the background, even though like the camera's so bad I can't see the screen, it's just a big white blur. You can hear like Gorilla Monsoon on like Saturday Night's Main Event, like screaming. And I'm like, this is funny. But my mom did the same thing with the toys, which is so funny. Those figures, my mom would buy me those too before I knew like most of them. And she always tells this story. So like she got into collecting them. Obviously I played with them, but she like did that thing where she's like, well, if I'm going to buy you 10 of them, there's 12 in the line. I need to buy you the other 2 just so you have the whole set, you know? Yeah. And she always tells the story once of, we went to the store, and she was like, all right, like she came in with a plan. He's going to get a wrestler, and I need him to get like these 2 because it completes the set. And it was like Dusty Rhodes and like Akeem. Those were the 2 she wanted to buy me. And
so you're talking like the little.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, I didn't clarify. Okay. The little, the little plastic ones. Sorry.
Yeah, I had those as well.
I had so many of them, and I would not let her buy them for me. Like I was throwing a tantrum apparently, like in the store, and I would like throw them out of the cart, and she still holds that over my head that I wouldn't let her buy the Dusty Rhodes and Akeem. And yeah. And I wish I still had those. I went to, and this is a sad story. I had them. My mom kept them. And when I was in college, let's just say I liked beer money more than wrestlers. And I sold every single one of them to buy beer.
Okay, and yours is worse because you did it to yourself.
I did. I was so stupid. Oh God, looking back now, it's just, I didn't make near enough money off of them either. I just wanted money.
For sure.
So I'm like, if I was like this age, I could have like at least, I would have never sold them if I had them now. But man, what an idiot.
One thing I do want to bring up, like I said, my uncle was into wrestling as well. And I came across this book that I actually still have that introduced me to anything, to other stuff that I wasn't aware of. Strange and Amazing Wrestling Stories.
Strange and Amazing Wrestling Stories.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's funny. It goes over Hogan and John Studd. It has this chapter on the Fabulous Moolah and the Wendy Richter stuff. Mr. T, Freddie
And
Blassie.
I have to assume it's written in kayfabe. I have to assume it's written in
It's 100% kayfabe. Oh yeah.
That's what the best part about those books were.
Right, and that's what attracted me to the actual pro wrestling, because I knew when it came to the figures, obviously I knew who all of them were, but I never actually knew anything about wrestling per se until I read this book and realized there's a big world out there. And I tried to read as much as I can, and then boom, it's snowballed from there.
Right. So then what's your first memory of watching it? Like what's the first wrestler that like sucked you in that you actually remember like
Hogan.
cheering for? Was it Hogan?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I where I'm from, it's a small enough town that growing up we had the 13 channels and none of them aired wrestling. So I never really, so I only got to see pictures of Hogan through the magazines and stuff. It wasn't until he went to WCW that I watched my I would watch Saturday night. That's what I would do. When it comes to the WWF, it took me a long time, but it wasn't until Hulk Hogan signed with WCW and defended his title against Ric Flair on Clash of the Champions that I started watching regularly.
Right. That makes total sense.
For a few years, and then boom, 2000 hit, and then that's when that's everything. No looking back from there.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never watched WCW when I was young till probably the Monday Night Wars kicked in. I don't remember ever watching
I had access to.
It makes total sense. Isn't that everything when it comes to like wrestling pre-internet? It's whatever you had access to.
Pretty much.
Because I don't even remember. Yeah, I definitely did not have access to WCW. Again, growing up in New York, it only made sense that I had access to WWF over there. But I remember that's all I ever watched.
I was 8, 9 years old, and I knew that Mankind used to be Cactus Jack. I don't know how I knew that.
Gosh, see, well, and that's because you watched WCW.
That's right, but he was on WCW like 4 years prior when I was 5. It's one of those, like, I don't know how. I didn't have access to ECW either, so I didn't get any of that.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I grew up on WWF, and my first memory, and I obviously remember seeing, like, and I think a lot of it comes from the figures, like the Warrior and Hogan and all that. Like, I remember that. But the first thing I vividly remember, I think I was 5 or 6, was when Bam Bam Bigelow and Jerry Lawler were feuding against Bret Hart. And like Jerry Lawler was making fun of Bret Hart's parents, and then like using Bam Bam to like beat him up, and that was right when
Bam Bam really,
remember that was the big thing at King of the Ring '93. That was why Bam Bam and Bret were in
'93. Okay.
Finals.
I've only seen that show once.
That's a great pay-per-view, by the way. But that was also the next year was '94, and again, this is my childhood because of renting the VHS tapes at the local gas station.
But the night let me do it.
Oh, really? That is how my mom, I'm pretty sure, kept me entertained. I physically remember the little tiny gas station hole in the wall that I'm pretty sure is as big as the room I'm sitting in. And there was a wall, and it was all the WrestleMania, SummerSlams, Royal Rumbles from when they started to now. I watched the Royal Rumble 1994 an outrageous amount of times. Like, I pretty much have the pay-per-view still memorized to this day because I just watched it on repeat. But that's the one where Owen Hart kicks Bret Hart's leg out from under him, and then the Luger Bret Hart double finish. I was hooked. Bret Hart was the greatest wrestler I'd ever seen, and I was a Bret Hart fanatic until forever.
I'm jealous of you in that sense because, like I said, I would watch WCW Saturday night, and I would see stuff of WWF in the news, in the magazines and stuff. But my parents wouldn't let me rent wrestling pay-per-views, so I would go in and I would see SummerSlam 1990, and I would see WrestleMania 7. I was like, I want to watch this. Parents wouldn't let me, so it wasn't until I became old enough to rent movies on my own. So probably when I was about 13, 14 was when I finally started. I just went to the video store and I just rented as much as I can, and I remember. In 7th grade, we had a substitute music teacher who came in, and he found out some of us had liked old wrestling, and he had old Coliseum videotapes. That's how I saw SummerSlam 88, SummerSlam 89, Survivor Series 89. It was heaven.
Man, those Coliseum tapes were just awesome.
Yep.
Just the box art on them, and just that big bulky ass plastic covering.
WrestleMania 2 one at my parents' place.
Yeah, that WrestleMania 2 one. WrestleMania 2 is a good pay-per-view. People don't like it. I do.
I'm due for a watch. I haven't watched it in a really, really long time.
That's one of the ones I like that people just hate, and I think it's fun. The other thing I do, just because you brought up ECW earlier, the other memory I do have. So I was probably about 10. My mom and dad got divorced, and I remember give it a time. So probably 11 maybe. My mom dated like her first boyfriend after, and you know, typical boyfriend thing, trying to connect with the child. And he's like, "Oh, you like wrestling?" And I was like, "Okay." And I'll never forget it. He brings this garbage bag with VHSs in it, and they're all handmade taped VHSs. All of them ECW.
Oh my God.
It was so interesting. I'd never heard of it, never knew it existed, didn't know anything about it, and he literally had every ECW pay-per-view like taped on his VHS, because this was probably 99. From like 94 to 99, he just dropped them in my lap. And I was blown away. And then I watched ECW in loop for about a year. And that was nice because that's when they were actually on TV in a very terrible show. But
that's actually where my introduction to ECW was. Like, again, I would see the VHS tape where there was like, I have no idea what this is. But then they started on TNN, and then that's when I started becoming familiar with ECW.
And that TNN show.
Yeah.
Have you ever rewatched some of it?
No, I can't bring myself to.
Don't do it. Just don't do it, Soda. Yeah, I watched one maybe a year ago. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out and see what. Oh, no wonder why it.
No wonder why it tanked.
Didn't go so well.
Yeah,
but I remember when I. Oh no, you go.
So I was gonna say that's a similar reason why I'm hesitant to go back to watch 2000s WCW, because that's when because that time was when my fandom exploded. So I was watching Nitro every week and loving it. And so when Lance Storm showed up in WCW, I knew who he was. And so I actually have like a slight fondness for that time, but I don't know if I can go back and watch anything from that time.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Well, and you know all the stuff that happened at that time now that you're older. Like all the bad things, like all the bad stuff. Yeah. WCW had a lot of it, but it's just the fact that their good stuff was so good that it completely overtook the just awful of some of the
1992 WCW catalog is underrated.
It is. That's a really good span of WCW, that 92, 93 era. Yeah. And that was just a weird era because it was when Hogan went over and people thought that was weird. And
well, no, Flair, I'm talking before that. Like, I'm talking like Rick Rude, Dangerous Alliance. That's 92, 93.
That's true.
Hogan went in 94.
God, that was that late.
Yeah, it was 94. But yeah, no, 92, it has like the best.
The Dangerous Alliance is the Dangerous fun Alliance,
stuff. Which is the best war games you can watch. Dangerous Alliance versus, I think, Sting Squadron.
Yep. That's a really good one.
It's a good one, and it's weird to see Stone Cold in a War Games.
Oh, gosh. Even I remember as a kid liking Stone Cold and Brian Pillman. I don't know why, but I remember as a kid liking that. For no reason.
Like, I remember Brian Pillman, and I somehow missed the Hollywood Blondes and all of, like I said, I was watching, but I somehow missed all of Austin.
Of course. Of course. Because you're a kid, you don't pay attention. Like, again, when I was a kid, I literally focused on Bret Hart. For that couple years, I don't remember liking anyone else. Like, I mean, I watched it. I watched Diesel and Shawn, and I don't even remember who else at the time I liked. You know, obviously, like, even like thinking back, I literally watched the shows to watch Bret. And I'm not sure what else I watched the shows for. I mean, I was entertained, but it's just funny now, like, you know, we're adults and we watch for multiple wrestlers.
Yeah.
And different things. But like as a kid, I just do not remember watching. And I think obviously I was really young, but yeah, probably like you, because we're about the same age, was when, you know, the Monday Night Wars started. Then I actually started to watch more and like more, and think it was, you know, that was when I liked WCW. I was watching Nitro over Raw.
Yeah, I had by that point I had taken kind of a break from wrestling, mostly because I couldn't watch it. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. My toys were gone, all that stuff. And then when people started talking about it at school, it kind of piqued my interest. But it wasn't until we got a bigger cable package and we got TSN up here, which is like our ESPN, and they at that time had the rights to Nitro and Raw. So Nitro would air like the next day or whatever. But anyways, it wasn't until early 2000s, so Cactus Jack Triple H feud, where I really got 100% into it.
Great feud.
Yeah. Hands down, my favorite Triple H feud still.
Really? The Cactus Jack one? Yeah. That match at that Royal Rumble, was that 2001?
2000.
2000. Oh, that's a great match. Like, that's one of the ones that just is brutal.
Well, the pay-per-view from start to finish itself is a great pay-per-view, but that match in particular
is because that's Rock winning, right?
That's The Rock winning, yeah.
Yeah, he dumps out Big Show.
Yeah.
That's a great pay-per-view. Yeah, that match is, people forget how, because of ECW influence, that really tough WWE was for like that year and a half, 2 years.
Oh, 100%. And to have it be in Madison Square Garden, where it's like it was kismet. It really was kismet. And I think their Hell in a Cell match is one of the most underrated Hell in a Cell matches.
It is. It's just because it had to fall behind, like the couple infamous ones.
Yeah, but even Foley's fall through the cage on that one was a great way to end the match.
It was.
It was a great forgotten gem of a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, it fell right in that weird time where it was like, oh, can you top the Taker Foley match?
Yeah,
man, you're not wrong on the Triple H Foley feud being really good.
Oh, for sure. And if you haven't watch the WWE Untold special on that, it's a really good special.
I'll have to watch that because that is really good.
Triple H has said repeatedly, like if it wasn't for Mick Foley, he wouldn't be as big a star as he is. Like Mick Foley made Triple H.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's interesting. So then, okay, so you fell out. I can't believe you fell out. It's funny you watched WCW, but then you didn't watch it like during the biggest time.
Like I said, because that for the longest time I just didn't have access to it.
Totally. No, it's just funny that way. It's not like it's your fault or anything.
No, yeah, it was just the way it was. But then the Attitude Era just started picking up, and like I said, once I started watching again, I didn't stop. I didn't stop until probably 2010, where my fandoms did start to wane because it was getting boring.
You and everyone else.
Exactly. But then something happened in 2011 where it's like, oh, I'm back.
Yeah. Well, and that's totally what happened. That I have a buddy of mine who was a pro wrestler for a long time and big wrestling fan, and he always said like a lot. Like if you listen to Bruce Pritchard's show, he'll say it too. Is that like 1995 was like the worst year of WWF? But man, that like 2009, 2010. When Jack Swagger and Great Khali are winning the title, and the ECW is a completely mess.
Yeah,
that was a tough couple of years of wrestling to stomach through.
Really, really is. So yeah, it's no wonder that I fell off. And I don't know about you. Did you fall off around that time or?
Not really. I was in college at the time, so I didn't really mind sitting in my dorm watching wrestling.
Oh yeah.
I would say I didn't fall off. I would say right now is the most fallen off I've been since the Attitude Era, I bet. In the last 20 years, I bet you right now is the most fallen off I've been with modern wrestling.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic might have been part of it.
Probably.
And I haven't gotten back in.
But also there's just so much content right now. Right?
And it's like that with everything, right?
Yeah.
Not just wrestling. You're just overloaded in life.
Yeah. Yeah. When I say in 2010 that I had like lapsed, I don't want to say like I stopped watching. No, I would still watch like the occasional Raw, and I still had my ear to the ground what was happening. So I knew who CM Punk was.
Right.
Then I heard about the pipe bomb, and it's like, oh shit, I had to go online right to watch it. And then after that, I didn't miss a Raw for years or SmackDown for years.
Right. Well, and that goes to the concept of, I know we're just jumping all over the place, which is kind of fun because it kind of gets our opinion on things. Yeah. But I had talking about the group text that I'm in with some people. I don't know if you saw, but since Cena's been back, Twitter's had some really fun things on there. And obviously we all know that Cena's like the big Make-A-Wish guy. Yeah. And there was a great video on Twitter like 2 days ago of like
his 650th.
Yeah, and then he was like the kid actually got like out of their wheelchair and walked with Cena, and I sent it to my buddies, and I was like, you do got to admit when he was gone, like you miss things like this. And he goes, and like one of my buddies responds, he goes, the guy is a celebrity. And then we had a whole discussion of like, is there ever going to be a wrestler like as famous as John Cena ever again?
The Rock.
No, I mean, no, going forward. Like,
you mean now. As a wrestler?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a long, long, long time before you see anyone come close, because I know we don't talk a lot of new stuff here, but I mean, WWE has been dropping the ball for years on making new stars. I mean, look what's going on right now. They're letting go their stars, and they're bringing in the stars from our past.
Right.
So no, I do have to agree with you to a degree. I think it's going to be a really, really long time before we see that again.
Yeah. And that's what makes me think of like being a kid again. Like I wonder what I would love to like. My son's only 3.5, so obviously that doesn't work. But I'd love to be like around like a 9-year-old watching right now. Like,
So we have a question and comment from
ooh,
Sean Buckley. Good luck with the new show. Well, thank you very much. What is your favorite, worst, and funniest moment as a wrestling fan?
Oof. Let me think. That's a tough question. I can tell you the worst, and this is only just gonna because it's gonna go with this conversation.
Okay.
So I'll start with my worst, just because it popped in my head immediately. The Katie Vick angle.
Oh yeah.
So if anybody out there doesn't know, you should Google it because it's not the greatest angle to talk about. It's probably one of the worst things WWE has ever done. But Google Katie Vick. So my mom was all about, as I said earlier, me watching wrestling. She pushed it. She bought me the pay-per-views. She rented the movies. She watched Raw with me a lot.
Mm.
But when that Katie Vick angle happened, she said she was done. She was like, I no longer can watch this. This is too stupid and like kind of the worst thing. And I don't think she watched ever again. Like she wasn't kidding. It wasn't like she was like, oh no, this. She was done. And I was just like, oh. And now, obviously at the time I was too young to, I was like, 10, 12. So it didn't really register how ridiculous it was until you look back and you're like, oh man, that was really bad.
Yeah. And in hindsight, yes, it is easily the worst moment as a fan. But I do remember the time for some reason not bothering me because I didn't quite understand what was going on.
And it was only the worst for me because my mom quit watching with me.
Right. Yeah.
That's what affected me.
What's your funniest moment? I can tell you what mine is right now.
It's
Santino Marella attempting to do the Melina entrance.
That is funny. Santino was an underrated. Like people got on him. That guy was funny. That tea time with Vladimir Kozlov. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It is really hard in wrestling to be genuinely funny. But
and
that was funny.
How over he was. Like when he was part of the final two in that Elimination Chamber match, he was over.
I think I said that to you off air. I was at that show. I was there. Yeah, I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Me and my buddy went to that. And you should have been in the building.
I can imagine.
There wasn't a human in there that didn't want him to somehow tap out Daniel Bryan. And like everybody was on board. Like this would be insane to see happen. Yeah, that's one of my favorite live moments ever was seeing that because it was just so ridiculous. But Santino was funny. The other one that just pops in my head, maybe it's recency bias, was the time when it was like the Royal Rumble and R-Truth grabbed the ladder.
Yeah.
Put it in the ring. Climbed it and he realized that he wasn't in a ladder match. I'm like, okay, that's funny. Like I don't know if that's the funniest, but that's the one that pops into my head. The Santino one's is a good one though. That's a really good one.
I love watching that clip over and over and over again.
I'll have to rewatch that one.
All right, favorite
moment. I mean,
I've got
to me,
mine, but I want to go last because I can segue it into my question for you.
Okay. It's really hard to not just go, I guess, if you're going as me as a kid, and maybe just to stick with the conversation that I'm thinking is when Bret and Lex went over the top rope in that Royal Rumble. If you should rewatch that Royal Rumble because when Bret comes out at like number 26 or 27, they don't give he's limping and the crowd reacts like they can't believe he's alive.
I remember. Yeah.
And it's so good. And there's and could him and Lex have hit the ground more perfect? I mean, they literally hit spot on.
Yeah.
And then when Bret obviously goes to beat Yoko at WrestleMania from it, and again, that's my fandom. But man, that moment is still so good to me because not only was it made perfect, the crowd was crazy. Bret was like super over.
Yeah.
That was when Vince wanted Lex Luger to be his guy so bad.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work.
No, so my favorite moment, it ties into my favorite pay-per-view, which is my question for you would be, what is your favorite pay-per-view? And it actually is the very first pay-per-view I was ever able to watch live. And my favorite wrestling moment still so far is seeing Shawn Michaels roll up Triple H for the win in his first match back in 4 years.
At that chamber?
At SummerSlam 2002.
SummerSlam, yeah, yep. The battle.
Hands
that
down
was
my
good.
favorite pay-per-view, because seriously, from bell to bell, hands down the best card I've ever seen. But it's funny that the situation I was in with my grandparents at the time didn't bring it down, because we went to a fall fair the day before and my grandpa got drunk and my grandma left him behind. And so when I went there for the next day, because it was their birthday gift to me, that was the most awkward situation ever. But what was going on in front of me couldn't ruin it for me. Just, oh my God. Was it Edge and Eddie for the IC title? I think it was. Rock Brock. Like, there's just so Taker versus the Un-Americans, which was a really good match for what it was.
Yes. Interesting. It's so funny. You never meet somebody who loves SummerSlam as much as you do.
Oh, there's something about it. Like, I mean, Royal Rumble is overall my favorite pay-per-view because of the match itself.
It's mine too. I just can't get over it. There's been so many great matches. I understand the Royal Rumble itself.
Yeah.
It's a perfect match. Like, WWE, Pat Patterson created a perfect match. And I thought of this because I just texted a buddy. So I was on a road trip this last week and I had some downtime in the hotel. Jeff, have you ever watched MLW's Wrestle Riot, that Royal Rumble battle royal they do?
No, but is it on YouTube? I should check it out.
Yeah, you can check it out. It's kind of a cluster, but it's kind of fun. You're killing an hour watching MLW. It's fine. But it made me think of just like, everybody tries to do cutesy things with the Royal Rumble. They don't work. The Royal Rumble is a perfect formula. Like, MLW tries to do pinfalls in their Royal Rumble, and they switch it all up, and there's 40 people, and it's just a mess. Same with like the
only one I will say I actually do like is the what's the one they do in AEW with Double or Nothing?
The casino.
Casino. I like that concept. I actually do.
Do you? Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think it's terrible, but it's just the Royal Rumble is so good. But there's also other matches. The one I always think about super underrated is the 2003 Rumble. That's the one where Brock wins. Kurt Angle and Human shall be remain nameless.
Great
Chris
title match. Great title match.
Have a spectacular title match in that. It is. I remember that was the first year I remember watching it where I rewatched that instead of the Rumble. Like, I would just rewatch that match because that match was so awesome. And I'm like, this is that was almost one of the first matches I remember being just like, this is what you watch wrestling for, even when I was young. Like, because it was just so awesome. Yeah.
For me, it's not 03. For me, it's 2001. That's the one for me, because think there's the stars that were in the Rumble match itself. Plus, with Austin winning it for the third time. But also, because as it got He Who Shall Not Be Named in it, there is a hidden gem of a ladder match for the IC title between him and Jericho.
Jericho.
That's the one where I'm gonna say his name. That's the one where Benoit does a suicide dive through the ropes and fucking Jericho just clocks him.
That is a great match.
That now you're like, yep.
Yeah, and not to bring up '94 Rumble again, because I have like 4 times in this, but that has the awesome Yokozuna Undertaker.
Oh, the
casket match. The one where like Yokozuna has like this outrageous amount of people come down, like Tenryu and the Great Kabuki and Kwang.
Pretty much anyone who was available in catering.
Any heel that was mid card or below.
Yeah.
And then as they're rolling him out, like it smokes and Taker appears on screen. It's hilarious, but it's so awesome. Yeah, the Royal Rumble it's too bad that it gets overshadowed by the Royal Rumble itself. Or like it was even like the 96 Rumble, where the Rumble wasn't the main event. It was Bret and Undertaker went on after Shawn won.
Yeah, because it had the Diesel spot.
Yeah, but that match was awesome. Mm-hmm. But it gets overshadowed because they main evented it, and people were mad because the Royal Rumble is supposed to be the main event.
Well, there's one in recent years, and that is it would be 2015 Royal Rumble title match, the triple threat between Cena, Lesnar, and Rollins, when Rollins was winning the main event. Like, I think that was for me. I think that was Rollins cementing himself as a main event player of that match.
I thought that was literally the perfect showing for all 3 of them.
100%.
It showed that Seth could hang. It showed that Cena's still a megastar and that Brock could work.
Yeah,
because Brock worked his ass off in that. Like he literally had to legit wrestle.
Yeah,
in that one, and it's so good.
Yeah, and I'd say the last great title match of the Royal Rumble.
Probably, if you look back at it, probably. I mean, so yeah, I just can't not say the Royal Rumble. I just don't think it's I don't think there's anything else that would be better than it. I mean, I know we talked 2 weeks ago about the Money in the Bank. That's a great pay-per-view, but I look forward to the Rumble. Like, I legit look forward to it. I take that night off. That and WrestleMania are the only two that I like legit make sure I'm not doing anything. Like, that is a thing. I am going to sit there and I'm going to watch it. And I even, like I said, I even invite people over. They don't care. I don't know why. I don't have anybody that watches this. But yeah, I don't know.
There are a couple that if they'd have kept them to their original premise, they probably still could have been like that, like Hell in a Cell, if they'd have kept it to, when they're supposed to end a blood feud. And same with TLC. Like we've had a lot of great TLC matches since they made it a pay-per-view, but there's just something about those two having them be the end of a feud.
Yep.
Like they're supposed to be, where it was right. Like I don't know if I mentioned it on air here or somewhere else, but it's like I still remember the days where it's like, oh shit, we're getting Triple H and Cactus Jack and Hell in Cell. Like, oh shit. Now we're like, okay, so who's the feud of the year this year going to be in this?
I know. I agree. And I the one match I do like that a lot of other people don't is I do really like the Elimination Chamber.
Me too.
I've always been a fan of it. Granted, I don't like the new chamber very much.
I don't like any of the new steel structures that they have.
I understand the point. It looks better on TV.
Yeah.
It's easier to shoot through. And that new chamber isn't as brutal as that last chamber where it's like chain link fence and solid steel. Or as low. Like they're getting what they want out of it.
Yeah.
I totally understand it. But man, some of them early chamber matches, like when Goldberg first spears Jericho through that plexi, oh my gosh. I was like, this is
like a bitch.
Oh, it had to have. Well, and I'm sure you've seen interviews with people who are in those matches. None of them say they're fun. Everybody's like, this match kind of sucks. Like, it hurts. Like, getting thrown on metal isn't fun. It's just not. So
here's another question from Sean Buckley. Would you enjoy Survivor Series if it was closer to the original series of formats? To be honest, I like what we have now. The champions facing against each other. I like that concept.
I kind of do too. You look, if I'm sure you and Sean I'm sure you know too. Like, I don't know if we look back at those original Survivor Series as just fun. Because they're all really bad. Like, the concept's fun. You put 4 baby faces and 4 heels against each other. There's usually a feud between one of them, whoever the main star is.
Yeah.
And then you let them, but man, have you ever rewatched them? They are rough.
Try to watch from I think it's the first one where they did the 5 teams.
Team one. You can't even see the ring. Yeah, can't even see the ring. But and then the idea where they did that one year where it's like all the winners go for their own at the end of the night.
Yeah, 1990.
So I don't really know. I don't mind the title thing. And if the brand split was just that, which it's never been, WWE never commits to it. But if the brand split was still the only time they touched was Royal Rumble match, and Survivor Series. That one time they did it, where it was really felt brand splitted, like that was the one that Sting showed up. That was a really good 5-on-5.
And because that, in my opinion, one of the few great Survivor Series matches because of not just Sting, but also Dolph Ziggler. How invested were you in him winning the match?
Everybody was. And that was really at the height of the corporation when Kane and Big Show. So like that one worked because it was legit. There was stuff happening and they really put the time. You should rewatch that match. It's like 50 minutes long.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
I have the DVD actually.
It was intense, and it was a great match that led up to a great moment with Dolph and a great moment with Sting, and it was so good.
He didn't have a payoff with it, but I mean, the moment itself. Oh God,
was super good, and the match lead up was good. But yeah, I don't know. I like what they're doing now with the title thing. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I like that too, but I do like the whole like Team Raw versus Team SmackDown match. Also,
so do I
do like that. Like, I remember back in the day when that was the main event of the pay-per-view. Like, about 15 years ago?
Well, and then they spawned it off into that pay-per-view bragging rights.
You are right. That? Yeah, bragging rights. Yeah, that's still the only... the Raw, Go Home Raw for 2010's bragging rights is still the only live taping I've ever appeared at. Yeah.
I wonder if I went to a bragging rights pay-per-view in Minneapolis, Minnesota once. Could not tell you which one it was, but I definitely did.
I'm lucky I got Wikipedia.
Yeah, you should. I thought that was a good pay-per-view, but again, it only works if you have a legit brand split.
Yeah.
Which they only did for a couple of years, and then everybody started crisscrossing, and then it's like, why are we still pretending that we're doing a brand over brand?
Dragon rights, and you went to the one I went to the Go Home Raw for.
That's what I thought. Just knowing our geography, that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, because that main event was Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett, and if Barrett lost, Cena would be fired. He was part of the Nexus at that time.
Yeah, well, there's 2010 wrestling for you.
Yeah, and oh my God, the lens flare Sheamus gave me when I took a picture. Oh fuck.
That's right, you said that.
Yeah, but the coolest thing though was the dark match. I can't remember who wrestled, but Bret the Hitman Hart came out in the babyface's corner because it was in Calgary.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I was close enough. I was close. Like I was close but far. I could still. He was far enough away, but I could still make like I could see it's fucking Bret Hart.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you on that. But again, that's a good pay-per-view idea. If you are a legit brand split and you're having a fight to see which brand's better, like that's fun. But again, it never works.
No, but that's pretty much what they've turned the Survivor Series in is bragging rights.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I do love the concept of the champion versus the champion once a year.
Yes.
I really do. It obviously it helps to see who they are, but it'll be interesting this year. I wonder how they do that considering
I don't know, but to be honest, like to the 2019 one, I think in that iteration is probably my favorite because you had Shayna Baszler in the main event against Becky Lynch and Bayley. Like that was a baller match.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I wonder. You know the other pay-per-view that I liked. I mean, obviously, okay, I'll take out the 2 ECWs, but just the one night stand idea.
The first one, man. Wow.
Like even the idea that you get from it, like what we're doing tonight only happens once a year.
Yeah.
Why? And yet that's a great idea.
I still go back and rewatch that show like probably every 2 years.
That original ECW one?
Yeah.
Oh man. I followed that online because again, I was a ECW guy.
Yeah.
I always have been. I was all about it, even though I know what a train wreck it was now that I'm older. And some of it's almost impossible to watch because it's so bad. But I was so into it that when that got announced online, what was I? Sophomore in high school? Because it was 2005. Yep. I remember reading.
Sophomore is what grade? Because we don't really go by those terms.
Oh, sorry. 10th grade.
So I'm 2 years older because that was the year I graduated high school.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm 31.
Okay, I'm 34 in a month.
Perfect. So yeah, that's that. I remember following it. Every time they announced a new talent on that show, I just got more and more excited. Yeah, it's a top 10 greatest pay-per-view of all time.
100%.
It is start to back. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay. On the spot, what's your favorite part of the show?
My favorite part of the show, I know the easy ones to say, but I was always a huge Mike Awesome Masato Tanaka fan. So I loved that they got to do that match that they've done a bajillion times, even though every spot had already been done in a match prior. I was all for it when I saw. I'm like, these two dudes, Masato Tanaka, nobody knows who he is in the WWE, and Mike Awesome, almost nobody knows who he is there, unless you follow him in WCW. Yikes!
Which was my exposure to him was the Fat Chick Thriller. Unfortunately,
Fat Chick Thriller.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like them all though. I love the Heyman interview or promo. I love the RVD promo.
Yeah, see that Heyman interview, the Heyman promo, like the
So
Mike
good.
Awesome match is my favorite match, but the Heyman promo hands down.
So
that
good.
and the one from the Raw prior are like my two of my favorite promos of all time.
Just the fact
style. Oh,
just the fact that he looks
want to work Tuesdays.
Sure, work Tuesdays, and you got to admit JBL selling it perfectly.
100%.
I mean, there was so much good about that pay-per-view, and just the whole RVD torn ACL promo, and then the fact that they cut the lights.
That's RVD.
Yeah,
man.
And then they cut the lights and let Rhino gore the shit out of him, and I'm like, that's so ECW.
And then the legs came out again, and then you had the
you get the finger like,
yeah.
That's a great pay-per-view. And even the second one's not that bad. It's really not.
That Edge Foley versus Dreamer and Funk match. Holy crap. That turned into the 6-way. Woo!
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets overshadowed by Cena or RVD, but that match is good.
Like, my God, that's the closest I've ever the closest I can remember WWE being to a real fight atmosphere was that match. Because
it was awesome.
Cena was hated like persona non grata for that show.
You almost wonder sometimes, like now that obviously the moment's awesome, right? Like RVD getting it there. What if they would have just let Cena beat him? Like just to see
they would have fucking
chaos.
rioted. They would have
chaos. Would have been awesome.
It would have been the ECW pile of chairs all over again.
Right. That's what I think too. Granted, it would have done nothing and it killed ECW faster than they did anyway, but it would have been funny. But if you ever watch that show too, I know we don't see chair shots to the head anymore because we all know how bad that is. But if you rewatch, Balls Mahoney hits Masato Tanaka with a chair in that pay-per-view.
And the second one?
So fucking hard. Yes, the second one.
I just watched that last year. Do you think it was harder than the one Awesome gave him? Because those were both hard.
Oh my God, that one that Balls hits Tanaka with it's so hard. I mean, he hits him once, and then the second shot that's the end of the match. He hits him with the chair shot, and that they pin him. I mean, he hits him so hard. It's one of the ones that you go, oh, this is why we don't do this anymore. Because...
Well, the one for me is, again, ECW One Night Stand ties into the year prior. It's the Blue Meanie JBL match, the chair shot JBL got from Stevie Richards, because that was a receipt. Holy shit.
Yeah, and Stevie Richards admits it in a shoot interview. He's like, I went in there to bash his fucking head in.
He almost put his whole body through the chair. Like, I've never seen a chair shot that hard.
You know, the other chair shot, saying the Mick Foley Rock one is too easy. But it's in ECW. It's Heatwave 98. There's a great main event. It's the Dudleys versus Dreamer, Sandman, and Spike Dudley. It's a great hardcore match. And there is, I think Bubba hits the Sandman. And as a kid, even it was like, it rocks, like it hurts your teeth because he hits him so unbelievably hard in the face. And you're just like, oh my gosh, how do you do it?
I'd throw in the one that The Rock gave Ken Shamrock to the face in there.
Oh, yes. Yes. It isn't amazing. Isn't that funny now? Like, I wonder if these would be as important if we didn't stop doing them. Like,
I don't think so, because now it's such a big deal when somebody does it.
Well, when was the last time you even saw somebody get hit in the head with a chair?
Well, it was
AEW did it the one time.
Yeah. That's, I'd say, the last time that I can recall.
Because what was the one before that? It was who took the fine? Wasn't it like Batista and Taker or something? Or is it Jericho?
Oh, it was probably Triple H and Taker, one of their matches.
That's
right. The only match that I'm aware of that Batista got fined for was a match where he bled a lot.
He bled a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Batista bladed. That's what he got fined for.
Yeah.
The chair shot was the Taker Triple H one. That's what you're right.
Yeah, I think it was Hell in the Cell one. Yeah,
it was Hell in the Cell, and that was the Shawn Michaels ref one.
Yeah,
and
oh god, great.
And match. I remember afterwards, apparently like Vince and them were livid, but Triple H is like, "What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
Fire me?
Yeah, are you gonna fire the three of us?
The three people that you're not gonna stop from hitting each other in the head with chairs is Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Triple H. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's one of those things, like, if I don't see another one I'm perfectly okay with. I don't mind watching the ones from the past, but if you're going to do it, you have to have it make sense.
For the Hell in a Cell?
No. I'm talking a chair shot to the head.
Oh, chair shot to the head. Man,
you know, obviously shouldn't be done, but if you're going to do it, you have to pick the right moment to do it.
Right. Well, it was just like, I thought a great one was, again, if you use it so sparingly, like, I mean, every couple of years, it's going to mean something. Was when Brock elbowed Orton and made him bleed. Remember that? Was that SummerSlam? That was SummerSlam.
That was where Jericho got into Brock's face after the match. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's right. Because Jericho didn't realize that Orton let him do it.
Nobody knew it was a shoot.
Right. Nobody knew it besides Orton. Orton was like, we just won't tell anybody that we want you to literally cut my head open. And it works so well because it was real.
Uh-huh.
And and have you seen it since? Have you seen somebody just elbow somebody in the face just to get blood? So, yeah, that's pretty well, the one thing you didn't answer just because now I want to hear, what's your worst moment?
Oh, fuck. Well, Katie Vick is obviously up there.
So, what about Mae Young giving birth to the hand?
See, I didn't watch that live, so now that just makes me laugh. Like, what the fuck?
The other one that, again, because I was 10, that my mom had troubles with was Val Venus. That was big. She had a lot of troubles. Yeah. Do you remember the promos? While you think,
kinda,
that led up to, like, you should rewatch them. I understand it was Attitude Era. Woof.
Risque?
Risque. Yeah, especially kids are the main demo. It's funny.
Okay, this is my worst moment as a fan, and I actually do like this WCW concept match, but it's when Vince Russo won the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, I love when you choose Vince Russo winning it over Eric Bischoff. Didn't Bischoff win it at some point?
No, Bischoff didn't win it.
Okay,
obviously
good. Arquette did. But that Russo one was bad.
The thing with Arquette is I don't blame him for that. Like, obviously, it was not a good move, but I do not blame David Arquette for that.
Right.
Whereas Vince Russo booked himself to win the title.
He sure did.
In a match like that triple-decker cage they had.
That triple-decker cage was a nightmare.
I thought at the time it was dope. I thought
it was cool. So cool, but then you realize that, like, once they got up to the second cage, it was too small.
Yeah,
like it fits no one.
I think that's why in the second one they had it so you had to climb on top of that to get the thing.
Exactly. The other match that I liked from WCW that if I'm sure you've rewatched them because you're a WCW fan was World War III.
Yeah, it's been a bit, but
they are almost unwatchable.
Oh, for sure.
Because you don't know what's going on.
Nope.
They have two announcers per ring. So they cut back between these 6 people talking about their ring where they end up making jokes to each other that they literally don't know.
Yeah, I was able to say it was like if you listen, you can hear the commentators literally on air making fun of the match. They 100%
do. It's bad. And they did. I remember those were the ones that me and my buddies there's a couple houses that we would rotate to because our parents would buy the pay-per-view. We would always buy World War III, and as a kid, it was the coolest thing. 60 guys. Right. Oh, this is awesome.
When I watched, I think it was the 96 one when Macho Man won. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. But you look at it now, it's like most of WCW at that time, a clusterfuck.
It's a complete clusterfuck. I mean, it's so bad.
Like one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Like, again, at the time, I thought it was, cool. Now it's like, what were they thinking was that it was the Hulkamaniacs versus the Alliance to defeat Hulk Hogan or whatever at Uncensored, that weird-ass game with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson randomly thrown in there.
That's right. Oh, my gosh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Oh, what was another worst moment that I do remember was when, you'll have to help me remember who was in it, was that Dog Pound match with Big Boss Man and
okay, so that would be the Kennel from Hell match, Unforgiven 1999.
Yikes.
Big Boss Man versus Al Snow, which I'm not mistaken is after apparently Boss Man murdered his
dog
Pepper.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they put that cage and they put all them dogs in between it, like the dogs were gonna
shit all over the place. And funny enough, the last time we saw that iconic blue steel cage.
Yeah. It's so stupid. Like, I remember even as a kid going, this doesn't make sense. The dogs aren't going to rip them apart. Like, this
as a concept, it sounds amazing. But in execution, oh my lord.
Stupid.
That has to be one of the worst executed match concepts of all time.
It's so bad. It's so bad people have literally like kind of almost like forgotten it.
Yeah.
Like people are like, ugh, this is do you remember one of my favorite I'll say another super fun favorite memory I had. One of the VHSs I owned. I don't remember what it was called. Some over the top or some bullshit. It was just a compilation of WWF.
Okay.
It was that mid-90s when it was.
Yeah, I remember those tapes.
Remember those where it was like, here's 6 matches, but they're all goofy, and like one of them was the Kiss My Foot match with Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler, which is a pretty fun match actually if you rewatch. Then there's the like dentist match where Jerry Lawler's up in the cage and Isaac Yankem has to get him down, and Lawler like bleeds because he's afraid of heights. But then it also has the hog pen match.
Oh my God, the hog pen match.
That match is still so fun.
Yeah.
Not only did Triple H get like a staph infection in it because he cut his back open and then got all that pig shit all in his skin. I was a huge Henry Godwinn fan.
Really?
I always liked the Godwins. They were a tag team that I actually remember liking. I don't know why. Probably because they threw fake pig slap at people, but I loved it. I thought it was awesome. But that was a great match. It's a fun moment.
That is a fun match. Yeah, really the thing like I remember the most about the Godwins was the Road Warriors breaking one of their necks.
Oh yeah, it was Phineas, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because that was when Henry had to go by himself and it didn't work, and then they got rid of him.
Ugh.
It also took me until literally. I'm not proud of this, but I was listening to Bruce Pritchard Something's Wrestled a couple months ago, and they talked about the Godwins, and he goes, "Did you know Henry O. Godwinn? The initials are Hog, HOG."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I literally never once in my entire life put that together, which I'm not proud of myself for. And then he's like, "Didn't you notice it's like Phineas I. Godwinn, pig?" I'm like, now I feel like the stupidest wrestling fan ever that I've went 25 years of my life, never once putting together that their initials are this stupid. But it shouldn't be surprising considering there was an Isaac Yankem.
Yeah.
So, that is funny stuff.
Oh God,
Duke the Dumpster Drosy.
Yeah, the Goon.
The Goon.
Bill Irwin. You remember this one, Knuckleball Schwartz?
I went as Abe Knuckleball Schwartz for Halloween once.
I applaud you.
You're welcome. My mom did the makeup and everything. You know, the other one I was a fan of was forget it because now I just forgot who it was, but because it was just such a bad gimmick, but I thought it was funny. Now I can't think of it. Doesn't matter.
There was one because again, mid-90s I didn't really watch, but I remember I picked up some old WWF magazines from that time at a garage sale, and one that would have worked, which we did see work later on, was Waylon Mercy.
Waylon Mercy.
I remember
it
wasn't bad. I remember reading these articles and stuff, and it took me a moment to realize it was Dan Spivey, but I remember reading those and going like, this, what happened here? And then you find out like it was just injuries and stuff like that. But it's like, I think that gimmick at that time could have actually done something.
There was a few that could have, I just remember the gimmick that was so bad that ranks up with Abe Knuckleball was when they took Barry Windham and made him the Stalker.
Yeah, with the camouflage paint.
What?
Yeah. Okay.
Because he told him he liked to hunt. And so they just gave him this gimmick that he's a stalker. I remember that was if you guys if I don't know if you remember this, but did you remember Survivor Series? I think it's 1996. It is such that's the Rock one.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that because he was in that match, the Stalker.
Infamous. That match people remember, but the other two Survivor Series matches are so bad. Yokozuna's in one of them.
Didn't one of them end like in a count out for everybody?
Pretty much, yeah. And then there's the one that goes so fast it was like Flash Funk, and Yokozuna's in it, and Yokozuna has to be at least 700 pounds in it. Like he looks like he can barely waddle to the ring, and it is just, man, is it a fun time? It's such a bad pay-per-view.
That was the one before before the main event. Like that's, it lasted 9 minutes, 9 minutes and 48 seconds.
Who was in it? I'm sure you have that pulled up.
I do. And you're right. Yeah, Sean Bucky. Like that's why I said. Like that's why I said the gimmick worked later on for sure. You can easily see the parallels.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that match, you had fake Diesel.
Diesel and Razor.
Yeah, fake Diesel and Razor. Farouk and Vader on one team, with Clarence Mason and Jim Cornette in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Versus Flash Funk, Savio Vega, Yokozuna, and at that time, the most recent inductee into the Hall of Fame, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Jimmy Snuka was, jeez.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Savio Vega fan, though. So
at that time, they were doing the induction Hall of Fame right before Survivor Series,
so and they were in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, but that match has a really good that pay-per-view has a really good Undertaker Mankind match on it.
It does. That's the only thing good on that entire pay-per-view. That pay-per-view is a nightmare.
No, I'd say Bret Hart, Steve Austin is it's not the best of their matches, but it's an underrated match.
Right. It is amazing that pay-per-view is only remembered for Rock.
Yeah.
Granted, they put him over in it, which is super. Like when you really think about it, like
that was his first match.
First match, he goes in there, and then like he's the final guy against Crush and Goldust.
Yeah.
And like that's good. I love that Crush, by the way, when he was the dreaded hair, the Hart punch.
I want to say I'm a fan of the Team Chronic, at the WCW version of Chronic.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah,
I love Wrath when he's Wrath.
Oh god, that whole Mortal Kombat thing looks cool, but man,
do you follow him on Twitter?
Who?
Brian Clark.
No, I heard he's a nut bar though.
You should. I think he's kind of all back into like. I think he's one of them guys that kind of like it took him really long time to just embrace his whole shtick.
Gotcha.
Like that he's that he's like Adam Bomb and like known for Chronic.
Yeah, I had read. I'm gonna double check this real quick, but I had read he actually ran into some legal troubles not that long ago. Last year he was arrested on 5 felony charges, including conspiracy, drug possession, illegal control of enterprise, transporting or selling narcotics, and possessing a weapon during a drug offense.
Well, then that's probably why he's really back into selling his merch.
Yeah,
because now he's back selling them Atom Bomb Nerf balls and signing them now. Which,
oh my god!
As a kid, amazing. I wanted to get one of those so bad. I wanted an Atom Bomb Nerf ball.
That he had such a cool look, Brian Clark.
I thought he did too. I was really into the Atom Bomb thing as a kid. Yeah. I thought that was awesome. I mean, it's very geared towards kids, but I thought it was awesome.
For sure. But I mean, like, just his, like, Brian Clark himself was impressive.
Yeah, he was.
As a specimen.
Good looking guy. God, Chronic. I thought Chronic could have been something good. And Crush was I was a huge Crush fan. I liked all the iterations of Crush. Even as a kid, I thought Silver and Purple Black Crush was awesome.
Kona Crush.
Yeah. I thought that was all good.
It completely skipped me somehow that he was in Demolition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then when I found that, I was like, "Oh, okay then."
Yep. Yeah, that Demolition was rough. Yeah. Isn't it funny of Demolition of like Axe had to step down because of health problems? And yet the dude wrestled. Yet the dude like wrestled 20 more years and is still alive. Yeah, but 1990. We needed him to retire and bring in Crush, so he didn't really have to wrestle anymore. I always think that's so interesting.
How big were Demolition, man?
I thought they were awesome.
Who didn't?
Who did? How could you not? Even though when you look at it, it's really weird seeing two dudes, in like S&M outfits, and face paint that are like not the most in shape men in the entire planet. No. Like they're just kind of flabby big dudes.
Yeah, even though Smash was a power lifter because he's from that. Where's
they just weren't. I mean,
they were the wrestler physique at that time,
right? And they weren't on like the warlord.
No, God no.
The warlord drugs, as we like to call them.
The one that dug, but still one of the top 5 all-time theme songs by Rick Derringer. Demolition.
Yep, it's great.
Which you can't get anywhere because of Rick Derringer. He owns the rights, I think.
So then, as a kid, just because we're talking tag teams, as a kid, it might be WCW. Who was like your favorite tag team?
In WCW?
I just assumed because you were young.
Or like when I was a kid?
Yeah, let's go when you were a kid. Like, what's the first tag team you remember like being like, I like these guys?
You know what? Funny enough, Paul Roma and Arn Anderson.
Ooh, that's a good one. Very WCW of you.
That's one that I remember specifically watching them at that time. Pretty wonderful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's random. That's a random
I know, right? It's very random.
That's a very random pick.
Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite tag team when you were a kid?
From when I was a kid, I have to say I was really a fan of the Smoking Guns.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean I was pretty young and I don't know, Billy and Bart got me. I thought it was a cool for no reason. It was. I liked it. The cowboy thing worked. I also liked the head shrinkers too.
Oh, the head shrinkers were the best. Yeah,
they were fun.
The Samoan SWAT team.
Yeah. They would
I remember, like, again, wasn't watching at the time, but I was all about the Rockers.
Yeah, the Rockers were awesome. I mean, yeah. I don't know if I was like, because I was really young, but man, I remember that like turn as a really young kid. Like that was like a thing when he kicked Marty and threw him through the window.
It's still one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history.
I think so. Yeah. Like I remember it like as a kid.
And also like, Bobby the Brain Heenan definitely helps with that. Oh, he jumped through the window, that type of shtick.
Yes. Oh, Bobby. You know what I used to love about them Coliseum videos was the skits they would do in between some of them. And the ones of I don't think it was Gorilla. I think it was like Sean Mooney. And like between like every 2 matches they'd cut to him and he'd have a big stand of them. He's like, "Hey, welcome everybody. If you are loving King of the Ring 1991, you'll love SummerSlam 90." And then Bobby the Brain Heenan's hands would reach out from behind it and he would start grabbing them. And like his whole thing was he wanted to steal them every time, like for himself. Nice. And like that was the running joke throughout the whole thing was that Bobby Heenan's like trying to steal these tapes. That is funny.
Oh, Bobby Heenan was absolutely the best. He has hands down my favorite Hall of Fame speech.
It's so good.
Yeah, and one of my favorite lines that I do sometimes quote to people is when they were doing it would have been primetime wrestling, and he asked them in the crowd, "How long you been married?" The guy says, 21 years. Bobby's like, if you'd have killed your wife on your wedding day, you'd be out by now.
That's a good one. Yeah, Heenan was great, and he is the whole reason to watch the 92 Royal Rumble every
100%. Like it's a great Rumble, but he just puts it over the top.
The way at like the last 5 minutes, he is freaking out about Ric Flair and everything he's doing. Like he's like losing his voice.
Yeah.
And like you almost imagine him acting like Pac McAfee does today, like standing up at because they never show him. They never show him. But he is going so crazy at the desk.
I never thought about that.
I always think of like, what did he look like as he's just flipping out the entire time? He's so funny.
Yeah, him and Monsoon are their chemistry together is the best.
It was. That was a great few years for Monsoon going from Ventura, because I thought Ventura was so good.
Yeah,
he was so fun to listen to with Monsoon, and just listening to like them old WrestleManias, him just crap on Monsoon the whole time, and then having Bobby follow for a few years is just I mean, that's childhood right there.
For sure. Like
it's just
like obviously JR and the King for sure, but it starts and ends at Gorilla and Bobby.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, 100%, Sean. Best Hall of Fame speech of any Hall of Fame. Especially when my favorite is when he starts talking about living the wild life and he compares Ric Flair to Larry Flint.
Larry Flint.
I might go rewatch that. And I actually had.
I should rewatch that. The other great Hall of Fame speech that's pretty underrated is Vern Gagne's.
I don't remember that one.
Because and it probably is a little bit on me because if you want to go the other like thing like you were saying, your dad and uncle. So I'm from Northwest Wisconsin, so it's all AWA. Yeah,
makes sense.
And my grandpa was always, if I'd watch wrestling, he always talked about wrestling from the '60s. Like, I was watching the Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon and all these guys. So I always knew AWA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as I got older in the internet, I started watching AWA stuff with my grandpa because he loved it. And so when you watch that speech, like it's really short, but there's like Vern and Vince, are like they did not like each other forever. Yeah. So and they really still didn't, even when he got inducted. And he has a really good line where he's like, I'd like to thank Vince McMahon for this induction, and like the whole crowd boos, and he goes, "Yeah, I never liked him either."
Yeah, I do remember that line.
It's such a good line because Steph and Linda are sitting right in the front row.
Yeah.
And they're laughing because they're like, well, of course you don't. He just completely destroyed you by taking Hulk Hogan away.
Yeah, and then you tried to break Hogan's legs, and the Sheik refused to do the work.
Yeah, you did. You did. That's a funny one too. Just he has a couple good lines in there of like, whoa,
Yeah,
like that. That's a good speech.
I was
I
a
do
fan
love
of
the whole
Dusty
thing.
Rhodes. Me too.
Yep.
I love the whole thing. Dusty Rhodes was fun, especially when he brought out the polka dot handkerchief.
I think those are. I thought the Freebird speech was hilarious. That story that he tells about Terry Gordy getting shot. They were getting shot at in that bar, and he's like, we're behind, and then boom, 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 the gun went off, and I hear this. Ha, 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 ha. He's like, Terry, what are you laughing about? He missed. Like that is a great
Should
story.
have been on the fly on the wall for that for
Freebirds. Anything? Do you ever think of that? Like what it would have been like to like be around Flair or the Freebirds or the Von Erichs?
I'd have had like 3 liver transplants by this point.
I know it's unreal that like
I don't know how they like Flair especially. I don't know how he's still alive.
I know. Well, I know. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I guess then maybe the easy wrap up question is.
Yep.
And maybe it's too hard of one because maybe it's a future episode. So I'll split it into 2 to make it easier on you. So who's your favorite? Now let me see. How should I say it? Because I don't want to just say favorite wrestler of all time. That's too hard.
Look, I'm going to tell you all time Triple H.
Yeah, and we know that. Now mine's Bret Hart.
Yeah.
So maybe let's split it a little easier. Who is your favorite wrestler? Okay, because I don't want to do the easy ones. That's too easy. So just because again you focused on WCW at the time, who was one of your favorite wrestlers in WCW that wasn't like main event?
That wasn't main event. So
yes, like no Hulk Hogan, no Flair, no Sting.
Well, truthfully, I was a fan of Cactus Jack at that time.
Sure, at the time that works.
Yeah, at that time, I actually liked Johnny B. Bad when I was a kid.
So did I.
Yeah,
and him and Alex Wright.
And yeah, so I'd say those guys.
Okay, that's a good crew.
That is a good crew, and I would actually probably throw in there as well Barry Windham. Well, I guess he's main event though.
Probably. Yeah, he's one of them tweeners, man. He's like the modern day Cesaro. Is he a main event? Sometimes, but not all the time.
Actually, here's a tag team that I don't know why, but I have fond memories of: Stars and Stripes, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, and the Patriots.
I was a huge Patriot fan. When wrestlers die, I don't really get too. I don't really care too much. Like it's like okay, it happens, you know. But man, when he died, what, a month ago?
Somehow it was relatively recent.
That was one of them ones that like I was like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Like I always liked when he would randomly pop up and do an interview or something.
Yeah.
I thought he was an interesting guy, and I liked the Patriot thing.
Oh yeah, I like the look of the Patriot and
huge
everything.
Fan.
When I found out he did like a really brief run in WWE in '97, I was like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it did not work.
We did WCW for me. Now we're going to go to you on ECW early years.
So if I do early years and I can't pick, I won't pick like Sandman.
I'll take out Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, RVD. I'll take those 3 out.
Okay. Well, my favorite guy who was like in the middle was Jerry Lynn. I was a huge Jerry Lynn fan. I have no idea really why. I loved the blonde hair, and I don't know. And I just liked his matches with RVD and like Sabu.
He was a badass.
He was a badass without trying to be a badass. He just was one. So I was a huge Jerry Lynn guy. And
I'm going to compare. He reminded me of Dean Malenko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Jerry Lynn was probably my one. And then if I had to pick another one, I always thought Super Crazy was so fun to watch, and the FBI. Though watching Tracy Smothers pretend to be Italian is some of the funniest wrestling you can watch.
When I started watching 92 WCW a couple months ago, and I came across the Good Old Southern Boys or whatever.
Good Old Southern Boys.
Yeah, and it's like that guy tried to be Italian.
Oh my God. Have you? If you want to watch legit funny stuff, is watch like 1998 FBI, and where Little Guido is legit Italian, and then like all these only one, and then watch all these other people that 100% are not Italian.
Yeah, JT
And
Smith.
one of them being, JT Smith, come on. And then one of them being Tracy Smothers. Like one of the most infamous redneck Confederate flag waving last territory guys alive. Coming out there acting Italian is some of the best stuff.
Passed away last year as well. Yeah,
he did. That was another one.
Southern Boys. That's the name of.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I liked that team. I think they're a good team.
I always liked that South. Again, maybe it's because we're too young. Yeah. So the territory thing doesn't get me, but that whole like Southern cowboy gimmicks always kind of work for me.
Yeah, me too.
They just work. It's easy, but it works. Like currently Hangman Page, I think, does a good job. Like I'm into it.
I love Hangman Page.
I was into JBL doing it. Like
me too. Everyone hates JBL. Dude was the bomb.
It was, looking back. It's some of the best heel stuff ever.
100%. Okay.
I mean, legit.
Oh, I was gonna say, I got a trivia question for you. This is an FBI trivia question.
Oh no.
Which former NWA World Heavyweight Champion was a part of the original incarnation of the Full-Blooded Italians?
Was it Tommy Rich?
Yep, the Big Don Tommy Rich.
Yep. I do know that. Yep, because if you watch old ECW stuff, ECW has a couple moments where they have legends in way more than you expected them to. Like Tommy Rich was with that FBI for like a year. Yeah. And like nobody remembers that because it's so random.
They also brought in as well. Like they had Dusty Rhodes for a bit. They had Rick Rude.
That Dusty Rhodes, Steve Corino bull rope match is cool stuff. It's really good. Oh, they brought in Sid.
Yeah.
Sid came in and had this match where Spike Dudley, he just murdered him.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments is when the lights came back on and it was Jerry Lawler in the ring in '97.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And when he hit Tommy Dreamer in the nuts and he had to have fluid drained from his testicular region?
Correct.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that was huge too because it was like, like all the baby faces were trying to make the save and none of them could do it. And that was like when New Jack tried to make the save and the crowd went crazy and they just beat the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. And then like Sandman tried to make the save. Like it was like interesting because they didn't let any baby face come in and actually win.
I wish WWE was more susceptible to doing things like that now. Because could you imagine if they went and did that with like Ring of Honor?
Right.
Like
right.
Oh,
I know.
But unfortunately, they forget what brought them to the dance.
Yes,
it's the way it is.
I know it's unfortunate, but this was fun.
It was fun. We almost went an hour and a half again.
An hour and a half again, and today we had almost no topic other than let's just talk about what we remember as kids. Look at that.
Yeah. And boom, an hour and a half later. All right, man. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dustin Dubuque. That's where I stick and stay. You have a lot more things going on. I give the floor to you.
So you can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me all over this lovely channel of Schmoes of the North, doing quite a lot of shows on here. I'm involved with 6 shows in total.
That's too many.
Yeah. Ugh, tell me about it. So yeah, you could find me on there. You could find me competing in the Outlaw Nation Trivia League. Yeah.
Ooh.
So if you're a patron of Roca, or if you want to be a patron, there is that league there. I'm going for the IC Championship coming up soon. And then me and 50 Shades of Geek, my friend, we're going to be forming a team, and you're going to like this because he's Israeli and I'm Canadian. We're the Allied Powers.
Nice.
Good yeah. If only I could get a hold of that theme music.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. And pretty soon here, once we move forward, we're going to be pulling a little bit of Schmodown in with this. We're going to be talking wrestlers in movies.
Yep.
Coming up, we're going to make sure that's going to be we're going to have at least one running theme in this show.
For sure. And I mean, it's obviously I'm going to put the Rock movies are the duh. And I even say Cena as well.
Yeah. They're the does.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll focus on the less fun ones.
Yeah, there's a lot.
12 rounds.
Oh God, yeah.
The original 12 rounds.
Yeah.
Bad movies.
Or the original Walking Tall, which is okay. Or not the original, the remake, sorry.
I thought the remake was okay. It
wasn't bad.
It wasn't great.
Yeah.
It's really short though. So
that is true. And I've only seen it the one time.
Maybe Walking Tall will be our first one.
Oh, there you go.
Look at that.
All right.
Well, thank you, sir.
Of course, thank you for coming on this journey with me. All right, so we'll see everybody next week on another edition of the Squared Slice. We should have a call off or something.
I know we should. I'm not really sure what it is. We got 2 words for you.
Squared Slice. No, I don't know. Or we got 2 words for you. Good night.
Good night.